Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, Yevamot daf Kuf Dalid. We are going to begin on Kuf Dalid Amud Aleph by the new Mishnah. Chaltza b'layla chalitza sakshera. Belezer Paisel. So we have a machlokas whether or not chalitza is allowed to be done at night. The Gemara is going to discuss the basis of this machlokas, and then the Mishnah continues and says b'smol chalitza subsula. Belezer machsher. So we have another machlokas if a person would take off during chalitza the left shoe. Is it necessary that it must be the right or even the left? So on this, the Gemara says, when it comes to doing chalitza at night, maybe it's based on the following machlokas. The marsavar makshinan rivim legoyim. The marsavar lo makshinan rivim legoyim. So Rashi says as follows: when it comes to negoyim, it says kol rivachol nega. It talks about quarreling, which is dinim mamonos, monetary issues, and then it also discusses the dinim of tsaras. So manigoyim riyos biyoim. So the Kohen has to go and see the tsaras during the day. So too, when it comes to dinim mamonos, also needs to be during the day. So the din is that, so what does this have to do with mamonos? Because chalitza is connected directly to her collecting the ksuba. So therefore the question is it true that when it comes to monetary matters, that it must be done during the day? So maybe it's based on that. Gemara says low. No one makes this hekesh. So that would mean that certainly you should be able to do it at night. So the Gemara says like this: because in fact, if you would make a hekesh, then afil gemar din b'layla namilo, then we would say that you wouldn't even be able to do gemar din at night. And Rashi says, "V'anan tanan din mamnis danin b'yayim v'garmi b'layla." But we learned that you can finish it at night. The question is, how could you finish dinim mamonos at night? If in fact it's directly linked to tsaras, to the goyim, it shouldn't matter if it's beginning or end. You cannot do any of the process during the nighttime. You have to actually see it. So therefore, it's a raya that l'chara, it's a davar pashut that dinim mamonos is not connected to tsaras. So therefore, what's the machlokas then? Mar savar chalitza kedchilas din damya. That when it comes to chalitza, it's comparable to the beginning of din. Umar savar chalitza k'gemar din damya. It's considered to be like the end. So therefore, it's all totally when it comes to, again, we know dinim mamonos, it can be done the gemar din at night, but not the tchilas din. So the question is, this notion of chalitza and its connection to collecting the ksuba, is that considered like the beginning or the end of this whole matter? Rabba Barchia, so this is question 11 and also TB 28. Question 11 asks, Ma raya de'ein makishin rivim l'negoyim, and again, because otherwise you wouldn't even be able to do gemar din at night. And where it says, Ma kamifli tanai ichalitza b'layl kshera olo. So again, its question is this chalitza comparable to gemar din or to tchilas din? So the Gemara says like this: Rabba Barchia Kitof saw Ovad Uvda. So this individual did a psak, and he did Bamuk Uvichidi. So what does that mean? Says Rashi, Bamuk Alpha Sheinu Shel Or. He used a shoe even though it was not made out of leather, and also he required he did it bichidi. In other words, he didn't have 3 people for chalitza. Uvalayla, and he did it at night. So all these different things could potentially be problematic. So Amar Shmuel, Kamar Rab Gurvre de Ovid Kiachida. Says Rashi, Beloshin Genai Amar. He spoke like in a derogatory manner, saying like, who is this that he should have done this in this manner? So my kasha, imuk. If let's say his question is, how could he have used a shoe which is not out of leather? Stama Tanya. So it's Stama Tanya, says Rashi. Bebrois del bekav hakiteya b'moik b'smichas haraglayim. So there is some support to his opinion. Ibul Laila Stama Tanya. when it comes to the night, also, b'masnisin chalitzas kshera. It does mention the first opinion of the Tanakama that chalitza at night is kosher. El yichidi kakashale. His issue was the fact that he did chalitza by himself. Heichi avid b'yichidi. How could he have done this? The yichidah. This is katani law. This is an individual, says Rashi, b'masnisin denan l'vo ma'aseh lefnei Rabbi Akiva u'kumachsher. We find that Rabbi Yehuda says that it was allowed. But again, that's a das yachid. And therefore, he shouldn't have been able to have done chalitza by himself. That was the bigger issue out of the three things that he did. Not cholza b'shnayim. If he did the chalitza with two people, b'shloisha, or three, b'nimsa echem mehem karav apostle chalitza subsua. If one of them turns out to be related or is apostle, that will make the whole chalitza not good. Rav Shimon and Rav Yochanan and Hasandler machshirin. They actually said that it is still kosher, even in that situation. Umasa be'echa shecholitz be'ena leveina bebeis hasurim. So there was once a time that chalitza was done in this by themselves, and it was bebeis hasurim, was in prison. Ubamaslef near Rabbi Akiva ukamachsher. Rabbi Akiva actually said it was acceptable, even if it was done by itself. But again, this is a das yachid, and therefore he shouldn't have gone like that opinion. V'yom Rav Yosef bar min Yomi Rav Nachman in halacha ka'isai hazug. The halacha is not like that pair. Namely, you actually need a basin. Actually, when it came to all the three things, is a yachid. The Sanya Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yosi Anir Isias Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha Shecholitz Bamuk B'Yachidi V'Layla. B'Smoil Chalitzaso B'Chu. So we have a machlokas. If you took the shoe off of the left foot, is that considered to be a chalitza? So my time the Rabbanon. So why did the Rabbanon say that it's a chalitzasos psula? So Amrul Yalfinan Regel Mimitzaira. We know when it comes to the din of the tzaira that it's necessary everything is on the right ear, the right thumb, the right toe. So malhon the yamin, avkan the yamin. It has to be the right. So Rabbi Lezer lo yelav regel mimitzaira. So he doesn't learn out this gezer shava, and therefore it doesn't have to be the right shoe. Vosanya Rabbi Lezer oimer menayin l'ritzia. When it comes to the all of the Eved Ivri, Shiba Oitzen Hayamanis, it's in the right ear. Nemerkan Oizav Nemer Lahol Oizen. Now, when you put a hole in the ear of your Eved Ivri to become a Nirtza, it's supposed to be in the right ear. Malhon Yamin Avkan Yamin. So Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef Rav Yocham Lachlafas Hashita. You're right. You actually have to switch around the shitas because of that problem. Rabbi Omer Lo Tepach. Don't switch it around. Oizen. Mufni, regel, lub mufni. When it comes to the word oizen, that's extra, and therefore it's a good gzer shava. However, regel is not mufna. Those aren't extra words. So what's the problem? Why is it still not a good gzer shava? The chilu mufni, my pirchaika. It's if it's not mufna on both sides, as Rashi brings down, then you could ask a pircha, and if there's a pircha, then it throws away the whole gzer shava, because ikal mifrach malo matzara shechin to own 8 erez ve'ezo shnei tolas. So we see that when it comes to the din of Mitzayra, there's all these other stringencies. You have to have all these other things in order for it to be a good procedure and ceremony. So maybe that's why it needs to be on the right and not the left. However, when it comes to Chalitza, we don't have all these chumras, so maybe it's not necessary. Next Mishnah. Cholza v'rakaka. So there's 3 things a woman does. She takes off the shoe, she spits, and she makes a decoration. She says certain psukim. What if she doesn't do all 3, only does a couple of them? Let's say she does chalitza and the spitting of a lo kara chalitza sakshera. Even though she didn't read the psukim, it's still good. We'll discuss if that's true for all people. Kara v'kaka, let's say she read and spit of a lo cholza chalitza sabsula. She actually has to take off the shoe. If she didn't take off the shoe, that's not good. Cholz v'kara of a loy rakaka. What if she did the taking off the shoe and read, but she didn't do the spitting? So Rabbi Lezer oimer chalitza sabsula, became oimer chalitza sakshera. So there's a machlokas when it comes to the actual, if the spitting wasn't done, whether or not that is ma'akiv. As we continue to kuf dalid amud beis. Amalei Rebbe Lazar. The pasuk says kacha yaseh. Now, the fact that it says that language is kol davar shu ma'aseh ma'akev. That's mashma that every action is ma'akev. So therefore, l'chara, it's necessary, or else it's possible. So Amalei Rabbi Akiva, Mishum Raya, Kachi Yasel Ish, Kol Davar Shehu Ma'aseh Be'ish. Anything which is a Maisa Be'ish, says Rashi, Rakika Masehi. That's considered to be like her action. He's not doing anything. She's the one that does it. And therefore, if she doesn't do it, then it's not Ma'akev. It's only when it's an action that he doesn't do is Ma'akev. Then the Mishnah says, Acheresh, if you have someone who is deaf, Shenechlatz v'chareshes shecholza. So either she does the chalitza or he's the one that's deaf. V'choyletzes lekatan, and does chalitza to a katan. Chalitza sapsula. In all these situations, it's not a chalitza. Katana shecholza, a katana that does the chalitza. Tachlates. So and then tachlates. Mishetagdil. We say that they should do chalitza again once they get older. If the katana, the chalitza wasn't done when she got older, then it's not good. Chaltza b'shnayim or b'shloisha. Let's say chalitza was done with 2 and 3. Nimsachem hem karbo apostle, which we said before. So chalitza subsula. Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yochanan, Asader machshirin. Actually, it's a machlokas. According to them, it's okay, even if one was is apostle. Masa be'echad, as we saw before, shechalatz bein leveina. That even an individual that does chalitza, that is still acceptable. It says the Gemara, Omer Rabba, Hashda di Amrid Kriya Lom Akva. Now that we already said that reading is not ma'akev, therefore, Elim v'Ilemes shechosel chlitzasol kshera. If someone is mute, or a woman's mute, then the din should still be its kosher. It shouldn't be an issue. Chalitza shouldn't be required to have the actual decoration, and we see it's not necessary, so it must be a person who physically is incapable of doing it is also kosher. Tanan, cheresh shenechlatz v'chareshes shecholza v'choletzes min hakatan chlitzas absula. So my talmam mishum deloy b'nei krininhu. Well, the reason why all these people are apostles because they're not b'nei kriya. The question is why not? Well, you don't need to do kriya. Lo mishum delav b'nei deyaninhu. The problem is that a cheresh who is an enu medar b'enu shemea, that's considered to be under the category of someone who doesn't have das. Yehachi ilem v'ilemes nami. So we should say the same thing. So Marava Ilavi Lemes b'nei deyaninhu. They certainly do have knowledge. This is more in Chagiga as well. Upumayuhu dekoyevuhu. It's just that they have difficulty speaking, but that doesn't mean that they don't have das. Abaha Oimer Amri Debe Rabbi Yanai Lafi She'enu B'Omar B'Amra. Regarding to a cheresh, the issue is because they're not someone who is an Amra B'Amra. They're not someone that could speak. So on this Rashi says, "Mafarish time of the masnisan the cheresh v'chareshes memnei she'enum b'oimer b'amra." They're not able to speak. Did non cheresh shedibru chachamim b'chol makom she'enu loy shmei v'lo medaber b'amra b'omer b'ansa b'amra. So someone that can't speak also. So there's obviously emphasis on the problem of not being able to speak. El Ianmar de Rava Sefet Mar Cherish Shenechlatz Charesh Shechos of Chalatzas Minakot and Chlitzas Absua. Rava Hashd Damrit Kriya Ma'akeves Ma'akva. So we see that sometimes reading is ma'akiv by all these people. Afikach Ilim V'ilemes Shechotz Chlitzas Absua. And therefore, because of that, the Chalitz is possible. Because again, a Cherish is an Enu Medaber, can't speak. So that's the same thing. An Elim who can't speak, the din is the Chalitz will be possible. Umasnisin Krab Zera. Dear Rab Zera, Kol HaRoila Bila in Bila Ma'akeves Boy. Chol She'en Roila Bila Ma'akeves Boy. So this is a Gemara which is said many, many times on Shas. And Rashi quotes the Gemara in Menachos that says if a person makes a decoration of Harilai Samach Al Yisroinim, that he's going to designate 61 Esroinim, so you should put 60 into one kli and the other one into a separate kli. And Rashi says, "Mafarish taima mishum dekimuhu rabbanan deshishim nivlois b'kliyachad." Only up to 60 is it able to get mixed up. Once it's so much flour, it will not be able to mix well, and therefore, because of that, you have to put in 2 separate kelim. The question is why? Well, it shouldn't be necessary. After all, even if you don't do the mixing, it's still fine. The answer is you don't have to do the mixing, but it has to be fit to do the mixing if you wish to. And because if there's 61, there's so much in it, it's not shaykh to be able to do that mixing. So too, Kriya is not ma'akiv. However, if you're someone that's physically incapable of reading, then in that situation, like an elam, it will be ma'akiv. Question TA 27, as well as question 12. Ha'im kriya ma'akeves b'chalitza, and as we just said, it's all totally haroy kriya. If you're physically able to read, but you just didn't do it, ein hakriya ma'akeves, then it's not ma'akiv. Ein haroy kriya, like an elam, kriya ma'akeves bo. In that case, the kriya will be ma'akev. Ad kan.